Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks for checking out the content. Be sure to check out all the previous videos that we have down here and look forward to more future videos. One that we're going to be talking about today, we're going to continue on with the OJT process. Again, acronyms within this agency. On the job training, OJT. One of the things that you're going to do after you graduate the academy, you report to your unit, you meet up with your FTO, field training officer, and you go through a lot of admin procedures, see the different aspects of the penitentiary, and probably the most important part of your OJT process is going to be when you get assigned to the shifts. Now, when I say assigned, I don't mean officially assigned. You still report to your FTO, but at this point, you're now going into the turnout room, working with other COs. Instead of moving around the different locations as you would every hour, hour and a half with the different ones, now you're seeing what the shift process is going to be like. I'm sorry. This applies, of course, to the 12-hour units. I don't know about the 8-hour and 45-minute units. I never worked at one. This is strictly the 12 hours. This has probably changed. One of the comments on my previous video, one of the viewers had discussed what I had talked about, how I hired on. It's done through email now. You get an email and can potentially go to work a week later. That was not the case when I hired on. If that's a change, that's good. That speeds up, expedites the process. I'm glad it's like that. There's not near as much of a wait as it was when I went through the process. That's a good thing. So, some of the content that I'm talking about is probably going to be outdated. You can't take it to the bank, as they say. Content is for entertainment purposes. If it does help out, great. I'm glad for that. What we're going to talk about on this one as the dwindling down part, the ending of the completion. That'd be a word I'm looking for. The completion of the OJT phase is when you get exposed to the different shifts. The first shift that I ended up getting exposed to was night shift, general population. Cool. Met with the FTO. She told me, okay, Carter, you're going to come in, I think it was a Thursday night. Carter, you're going to come in on Thursday. Be sure to be in turnout room by 0600. Roger that, Ms. Lewis. So, get through the usual process, get into turnout room. All the other officers, they're starting to trickle in from there, and you can tell I'm brand spanking new. Uniforms are still new and fresh, save for the one that got tore up. That one was replaced. Uniforms are brand new and fresh. Looking around the room, I don't know anybody. All these officers have been on shift with each other for quite a while, so they know each other. They're used to working around each other. I'm the new guy. It's not so much that they ignore you or shy away from you, but don't expect anybody to come up to you and put out their hand and introduce themselves as Officer Jones, Officer Jenkins. You're gonna be ignored. And if you're sitting in someone's seat, they're gonna come up to you and say, "You're in my seat." Now you got two choices. You can stand your ground and say, "I didn't see any name on this seat," or show some respect to this individual, stand up, give them their seat, move from there. I promise you that's going to go a long way. It's a feeling out process. Now, hazing is not acceptable. It's not allowed. However, does it take place? Does it happen? Yeah. If you want to be by the policy and by the book by everything, go right ahead and do that. You go right ahead. Nothing against policy in doing that. Just be ready for outcomes. I can't say specifically what they are. I wasn't a very by the policy kind of a guy. Being prior military, I had already been through some of the hazing process. I don't like the word hazing, even though that's technically what it is. It's a feeling out process. Will you fit in? Will you get along? What's your sense of humor? Can you be talked into a situation? Things like that. It's the way that COs are going to feel each other out. What kind of humor do you have? Can you take a little bit of humor? This is their way to start feeling you out. So, you're in the turnout room. You're sitting in there. Everybody's going to file in. They're all having their conversations. I'm sitting around the room, looking around. Nobody knows me. All right, cool, fine. Now the supervisors come in. There was a lieutenant and 2 sergeants. Call everybody to order. Everybody pays attention. The lieutenant starts going down what had gone on during the previous night shift, what had gone on during the day shift. Any assaults, anything to look for, any new transfers, anybody transferred out, any kind of pertinent information that could be important that the shift needs to know about. They'll ask if there's anybody. I say he because these were all male supervisors. There are plenty of female supervisors, just not in this particular shift setting. Asked, did anybody have any questions about anything? No. Where are our new officers at? At that point, spotlight's on the new guy. It was me. Stand up, introduce yourself. I'm CO3 Jesse Carter. Went through the academy such and such date. Went through Huntsville. Really glad to be here. Not a whole lot you can say at that point. That's to let everybody get their first eyes on you, see you. How'd you do with your public speaking? Did you use a lot of ums? Did you seem shy, timid, anything of that nature? That's their first impression of the new officer. Roger that. You sit back down, and then from there, the supervisor starts doing the shift assignments. Each officer is assigned a building, a pod, a dorm, a picket. All this applies to general population, not segregation. Once you're done with that, I hadn't been told anything. I didn't know where I was. Everyone's got their assignments. All right. So I'm kind of looking around the room. I stand up. I go up to the supervisor. Lieutenant, Officer Carter, I didn't receive a shift assignment. Oh, Carter. Yeah, okay. I got you. That was to see if you would stand up for yourself and would you go up and say, hey, you forgot about me. I don't know what happens if you don't say anything. I'm sure it gets worked out, but this was a test to see, will you go up and say something? So I did. I got assigned to, I believe it was 4 building. I don't remember the officer's name. I remember his face. General population. Good. Great. So I end up linking up with this individual. He knew I was with him, but he couldn't say anything to me. He had already known ahead of time. Supervisor had already front-loaded him some information. So I got with this individual, shook hands, introduced ourselves, and we go out to our pods. Okay. One of the things that night shift general population does, day shift does a lot of offender movement. They go to class, chow, their jobs. Night shift, they've just finished feeding dinner. Now the inmates are getting ready to lock down. One of the big things night shift does was mail pass out. Magazines, letters, anything that offenders would get paper mail wise, that was a big part of night shift pass out. So the mail room would already bring in the cart that had the bags with all the mail sitting in it. Some of it was sorted out, some of it wasn't. It was supposed to be, in an ideal world, it was supposed to be already organized, ready to go from 4 building tier 1, 1 through 7, to 8 through 14, 3, 15 through 16. Wasn't always like that. Sometimes it would be a mess. You go to pass out the mail, and the wrong offender gets this guy's mail, this guy gets this one's mail, or it's a different building's mail. I quickly found out it could be a bit of a disaster. There wasn't really anything we could do, because when you're assigned to a building, say I'm in 4 building, I can't go over to 5 building and come back to it. You're there. At that point, mail just has to get put back in the bag, and it's going to go back to the mailroom. So what does that look like? So we're passing out the mail. You pass out the mail that you have to the individuals that are in your pod. The excess mail that's not assigned to those guys goes back in the bag. The mail that this individual doesn't get, they just don't get it. They don't know when they're supposed to get it. They got an idea. It's not near as bad as having an individual's mail and you can't give it to them and it's got to go back to it. Once it goes back in the bag, it has to go back to the mailroom, reprocessed, reshuffled, and sent back out to the next unit. So it's just delaying the process for these guys. These guys talk to each other about how the mail does get messed up and the wrong dates, and they start to get agitated. They start to get irritated, rightfully so, to the point that when you get ready to pass out mail, and I found this out that first time, you got this one guy, we'll say it's in 2nd tier cell 17. He wants to know where the letter is that he's supposed to have gotten from Mama June that he knows has been here for the last 2 weeks, and now he's getting upset about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know Mama June. I'm the first guy there. However, because I got the gray on, I must know everything. And I'm the one that he's venting to about this. I don't have an answer for it. That's just one of the things you're going to experience. So, that's passing out the mail process. The next thing that we did, because it was August, one of the things they do on night shift, we pass out ice cold water. A cart gets pushed in, the door opens, the cart comes in, the door closes. It's a big, how big would the garbage can be? 55 gallon? Something like that. It's one of those big plastic brute garbage cans, the gray kind. And the lid would be on it, and it was full of ice cold water. There were a couple of different buckets and some ladles down on the thing. Once we passed out the mail, our job was to pass out cold water from there. So, we'd go around, start down at the first tier, we're pushing the cart, food slot would open, offender would pass out his cup. We'd take the ladle, pour some cold water into it, go on to the next one. This was done during the summertime so these guys could get some ice cold water, help them sleep at night. Now they had water in their cells, but the water that came out, it would be about the temperature of the cell itself, which in an unair conditioned metal concrete building in Texas, get up around 90 degrees, if not even hotter. Bad hot. So, we get to the end of the stairs, what do we got? We got a metal cart, and we got a big 55 gallon thing full of water. What do we got to do? We got to carry that thing up the stairs. Now you got 2 options. We could have dragged the bucket down the stairs from there, or we can drag the cart up there. We made the decision, let's get the cart up here. What do the inmates start doing? Banging on the doors, yelling, hollering, what's taking so long? I'm ready for my water. You guys are taking too long. You're too slow. We ended up getting the cart, passing the water out from there. You would think that these guys would be like, Oh, thank you, boss man. Thanks for that ice cold water. No. No, the reaction was, what the F is taking so long? Why am I just now getting my water? I'm supposed to have my water. That there was nothing respectful, anything at all about this. I'm thinking these guys are going to be glad we're giving them some ice cold water, and they're griping about why is it taking us so long to get it to them. Absolutely no care whatsoever in the world that we have to drag this heavy bucket up these stairs, get it to these guys. It's, I want my water, I want it now. I don't care what's taking so long. Absolutely ridiculous. By the time we got up to the third tier, we're covered in sweat. We're absolutely drenched in sweat. Not only are these guys in these hot cells, we're hot out here in the tier as well. Tier being the walkway where the doors were that went into these guys' cells. Once we got there, we were done with that cart. We just started dragging the bucket behind us. Up on the third tier, that's the hottest part that it is. Heat rises. We're 3 stories up. Now we're passing out water to these guys. And they're doing the same thing. And I'm sitting there in my mind going, there's no freaking way. There's absolutely no way they can act like this the whole time. What's wrong with these guys? Get all the water passed out. All right. We get it on down to the bottom of the tier. At that point, once we were done with it, I wanted to take that bucket and just kick it down the tier. You're going to yell and holler at me that way? I'm just going to kick that water down the tier. Whatever, man. Fine. But we couldn't do that. Had to bring the water on back down, set it on the cart, set it by the door. At that point, we had a little bit of downtime. There was no chow to feed. They were locked down. It was after lights. So bedtime, you can't make them stop being quiet. They talk all they want to. You can go try to write a case, try to tell him to be quiet. He may be quiet, he may not. Reason they were acting such a fool, they knew they had an OJT in there. I was the new guy. That was my feeling out process. Now, it wasn't like anybody went to these guys and said, hey, start acting a fool. They just know. They've been there for years, especially where I was at the Styles unit, max security. Those guys had already been there, I don't know how many years, multiple. They knew everybody. They knew all the officers. And when they see a new face, here they go. It's just like the new guy in school, the new guy in anything, except they don't have to be nice. In fact, they ain't going to be nice. None of those guys are in there because they sung too loud in the choir or they took an extra cookie while they were doing the Boy Scout run. They're in there for state felonies. Just, it is what it is. So that was how that first shift went from there. Act a fool. See how are you going to react to it. Some guys, when they get through that, as I've come to understand, they don't come back the next day. They're just done after that. That's first real exposure to working a shift. They don't make it the first day. Once we got done with the water, we had our downtime. From there, general population at nighttime, they're locked down in the cells. You just make security rounds from that point. Go from cell to cell, check, make sure they're all right, make sure they're alive. Nobody's trying to commit suicide. One cellie hasn't tried to kill his cellie. Nothing to that nature. Try to keep a hand on the trafficking and trading, how they send out kites. We'll talk about kites in another video. That's a whole separate way of trafficking and trading. Count time was another big one too. When count time comes out, that's when you're supposed to count a live, living, breathing body. All right, those 3 things. Live, living, and breathing. The offender's asleep. Got to wake him up. Show me a hand. Show me a foot. Show me something. They're going to hold a hand up. Usually it's not the 5 fingers. There's going to be 4 fingers, a thumb, and 3 fingers missing from it. but they'll show it to you. If they're asleep, gotta wake them up one way or another. Bang on the door, bang on the cell, shine a flashlight. What you don't want to do during count time is look in the cell, see a dark cell, see an individual laying there, count them off, and move on. There's been so many times corrections officers have done that, and the man laying there was either dead, passed out from a heart attack, heat stroke, something, suicide attempt. Next shift comes on, goes to count the offender, same situation, checks on him, passed out. Medical is going to come in, going to do a check, get a time from it. What was the approximate time? It was 9 hours ago. That was on nighttime shift. Did you check this individual? Yes, I did. How did you check him? I saw him laying in his bed. Not good enough. Now, you can be facing a real life charge at that point. At the least, you're going to be fired from the agency. At worst, after that, you're going to be processed for criminal charges. So count time was a big thing, especially during night shift. Unfortunately, the guys do get woken up at nighttime. I want to say it was around 2:30, 3 o'clock, something like that. They didn't get a full 8 hours of sleep. It wasn't like they went to bed at 10 o'clock and slept till 7. They got woken up for count, noises in the buildings, that there was no rest. So you can imagine they'd be a little bit irritated from that, amongst everything else that they had to deal with as well. So once we got done doing all our counts, the time had gone through. By around 6 a.m. that morning, 6 a.m., that was when day shift would come on. 6 a.m. to 6:30, they would be in turnout. They get the same kind of briefing from their supervisors. They would come out. They would relieve us. We'd make our way on from there, and then day shift would take over. Instead of going to the parking lot and finishing out, as you would if you were on shift, I went to the FTO's office, reported to Miss Lewis, told her which officer I had worked with, where was I, what did we do through the night. That was a memory check. Did you retain any kind of information that you had gotten during the night, or did you just, oh yeah, I went in this building, I worked with this guy. No, that's not going to work. You got to be able to retain information, pay attention to what you had done. Give her a debrief of what had gone on during the night. All right, cool. At that point, went home, came back the next night, going to work ADSEG. Next video that we talk about, we'll talk about ADSEG. ADSEG, short for administrative segregation, totally different from general population. Different kind of inmate, different kind of building setup, different kind of schedule. The only thing that would remain the same, count. Count time, probably one of the most important things that went on in the building. That was what prevented escapes, kept check on all the offenders. Sorry to keep this video so long. I'm really working on getting the timing down on it so they're not quite as long. There's just so much information that I have to say that I want to get out to you guys. I hope you guys are enjoying it and hearing everything. If you are, let me know. If you're not, let me know what you don't like. If things have changed, tell me how things have changed. I'd love to hear what's going on with the agency over the last 7 years. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Stay cool in this summer heat. Thanks for watching.